Welcome to Veterans Never Stop Serving, a podcast series by Sentinels of Freedom that talks with our Sentinels graduates. We call the individuals, the veterans in our program, Sentinels. Typically, they're with us about 4 years as they go through college and then on to the workforce. So it's a great opportunity for our listeners to understand that, there is life after service, after injury, and some of the great stories of our Sentinels. So today we have Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Jhonny Chinchilla. He's a graduated Sentinel and doing very well now at a CPA, and so we thought we'd talk to him a little bit. And so, Jhonny, welcome to the Sentinels of Freedom podcast that we call Veterans Never Stop Serving, which is true, historically true of veterans all the way back to prior to this Revolutionary War. They serve, they join, they serve, they come back to our communities and do great things. And you're certainly a great example of that. So welcome to the show, and how are you doing?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind words. I'm doing well, thank you. Really excited for this interview.
Yeah, so kind of you have an interesting story in immigrating from Guatemala to the United States as a young person, I think 3 or 4 years old. You're the first graduate, college graduate in your family. Those are inspiring. That in itself is inspiring. You graduated from high school and then joined the United States Marine Corps in 2001. Tell us a little bit about your motivation to join the Marine Corps and the military.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I was 18 when I enlisted. What's interesting about that was that when I was a senior in high school, a lot of people were applying for colleges, already had gotten accepted, and I really didn't have a plan. I'm a first generation college student, immigrant, so a lot of times our families don't know how to navigate college, and I think it's still true to today.
Sure.
And so I'm originally, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York, and I knew I didn't want to, they call it stay in the block. As fun as that sounded to me, being 18, having no responsibility and just hanging out with friends and just running a riffraff here and there, I knew
Right.
there was more to life. And I knew I was aware of the opportunity my parents gave me by bringing us to the United States. And I wanted to challenge myself, and I knew at the time I still wasn't prepared for college.
Right.
And so I turned 18 in March. 2 weeks later, I signed. I knew this was my way to grow and move on with my life. And I didn't go to boot camp till August because that's what the contract had. That was the date that I was scheduled to go into boot camp. Right. So I was in the DEP program for 6-7 months. And looking back now, I'm kind of proud of myself that I was that driven and focused, that I knew that I was leaving.
Sure.
And it's interesting because the recruiters at the time, typically, they would get nervous if you're there for that long in that DEP program because you might get cold feet.
Just for the listeners, the DEP program is an acronym, and it means Delayed Entry Program. But in your case, it gave you a little extra time to kind of get prepared mentally, probably for your journey.
Exactly. And so, and looking back now, I think the recruiters ever get scared, where they're like, oh, this guy's not going to make it, or that's too big of a window where he might not want to go. But I was focused. I was driven that's what I was going to do. So I kind of pat myself in the back that I never, that those ideas never came to mind. They were like, no, I'm leaving on this date. Sure. And I'm going to be a United States Marine. And so what's interesting about that, going to boot camp around that time, was that I was 2 weeks in a boot camp when 9/11 happened. Mm-hmm. And so I really didn't have a say. So if I question sometimes if 9/11 would have occurred, would I still have joined or not? I think I would have, but at the time we were confused. We didn't know if they were lying to us in boot camp or if they were just trying to mentally prepare us for something. And it wasn't until a couple of weeks later when we started getting magazine covers, letters from families that informed us that 9/11 actually did occur. Planes were hijacked, and that really changed the trajectory of my career in the military.
Yeah, I remember that day well, and I actually had a son in his advanced individual training in the Army at the time, and that was a lot of anxiety back then. I'm sure, from perspective of parents, I'm sure your parents felt the same way. We didn't know what was going to happen, and you guys, and being in the service at the time, probably had the same experience, maybe different anxieties. But we all were a family, so it affects everyone.
Absolutely. I cannot imagine being a parent and seeing this on live TV and having your child either already in uniform or about to go into the military, and it just changed a lot. It changed the way we think and the way we do things after that, for sure.
So I see that you had 4 deployments to the Middle East: Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan. And from your bio, a ton of experience. You started to get involved in kind of logistics, procurement, management of systems. You started to develop your trade craft, maybe the cornerstone of your trade craft of what you're doing today. Got a lot of experience and quite a few injuries that required medical retirement. I think, the beautiful thing about your bio is you're still in the Marine Corps Reserves now, and I really applaud you for that. The saying, of course, we have, veterans never stop serving. Again, you're an extreme example of that slogan.
Yes. I just want to correct a few things. I wasn't medically retired, but I do have disabilities, and there's a law, there's a rule where you can still serve in the reserves with having disabilities, as long as they don't stop you from deploying or prevent you from doing your annual requirements, which consist of your physical fitness exams, the other passing your medical exams and stuff like that. So, so fortunately for me, I'm still I still wear both. I still wear both hats. I still could wear the uniform, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I think when after a long year, I'll go in and do my reserve time, and I'll get to be around Marines again, and that to me gives me like a reset of what's throughout the year. And so then I'll come back into the office fresh again, ready to take on any challenge that is given to me. But I feel very fortunate for that.
It's a huge resource and opportunity for the young Marines coming up behind you to be able to talk to somebody who has been there, done that. And I'm sure you're probably doing a lot of mentoring to those young recruits. And that helps build confidence in those troops, is to talk to seniors, NCOs like yourself, who can take them under your wing, so to speak, and kind of give them a lot of really good perspective on their journey from experience. And that's kind of the military way. Those senior NCOs really do this all the time, and it's kind of the glue of what keeps the young Marines on their toes and confident.
Absolutely. One of the first conversations I always have when I go back and I'm back on base and I'm wearing my uniform is, so what are you gonna do after college? What are you gonna do after the Marine Corps? Are you thinking about college? And then I'll share my stories with them, and it's and I think they appreciate it because I'm coming from the outside. I don't see them every day, but I kind of inform them of what I've been able to accomplish in my journey, and the next thing is I tell them is you could do the same, and I think hearing that can encourage them. Oh, it does encourage them, and also they continue asking more questions now. Like this other part of the brain starts working. Like, oh wow, like I could actually become a CPA, or I could do something other than the typical traditional jobs that people do after the military, right? And that was really my biggest focus leaving the military. There was, especially in choosing my major, my degree in school, I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to do something that is not typical. It's not typically what a veteran does, right? Like there's
Mhm.
jobs that we could fit in, we're shoo-ins right away, but becoming an accountant for me was challenging. I didn't know if I could do it. And so I had a chip on my shoulder. And
Mhm.
that's what really encouraged me and motivated me every day to go to
Sure.
school, to try to get good grades and eventually get hired on and move on from college and into a new career.
Yeah, I think the other thing you're helping these younger Marines with is giving them a vision uh, into the future that they can be competitive. Obviously, it takes hard work, just like anything else, to be successful. But allowing them to kind of sharing your life story with them is probably very inspiring and helps give them a vision. So again, you're doing all the right things. And your journey starting in 213 in school and then on to your BA, your master's, your CPA. That's the real story that we want to tell, and not just to the public who may never have served or don't know what the military does, but I always say the military experience is a college if you treat it that way, if you take advantage of all the extra curricular activities that the military will provide you while you're in service for free. If you stand up, I mean, you have choices. You can hang out down at the pool hall on your days off or your time off, or you can take a little time and start working on your undergrad. In a 4-year period, if you put your nose to the grindstone, you should at least be able to come out with a associate's degree, and that gives you a jump start. Now, some guys will stay in for a career. 2 of my sons are career, and they got their undergraduates and masters while they were in, which is incredible and a terrific advantage for them when they go on to retirement. they're excuse me, they're shovel ready, as a lot of people like to say. So in the process of all this, kind of where you are today, you've achieved success. You're working hard for a good company and moving up the ladder there, but you still probably have some pretty big goals in life that you want to achieve, and you're still working on that. So tell us about that. Where's Jhonny going in the next 5-10 years? Where do you see yourself? What are your goals?
Well, he's a little older now, so
Yeah.
Mike. So
Okay.
no, but it's so interesting because I have this conversation with my friends all the time. From the military, you're taught that, okay, you accomplished this and you got to move on to this, and it's like climbing a mountain on top of a mountain. And for me, it was become a Marine. After that, deploy. Then after that, become a staff NCO. And you have all these achievements that you want to accomplish. And in college, just to say a little bit more about that. So I was 30 years old when I started college. I went from having 4 deployments, leading Marines on my last deployment, being the senior enlisted, to now taking an elementary algebra class and adding fractions. And
Right.
that was my first exposure to college. And it was demoralizing, but it was also like a good lesson learned, where you had to humble yourself down and just really, if I really wanted to graduate, if I really wanted to do all this, I needed to put my ego aside, and I just needed to humble myself and just open heart, open mind. And that's really what guided me throughout college. And I share that story with a lot of people because they just see the end product. No one sees how hard you worked, or those many hours. And I don't need people to feel sorry for me. But the point is that throughout the journey, it was extremely difficult. There was a lot of times that you're examining your life and asking yourself, like, is this really what you want? Because
So
if you do, then you gotta apply yourself. And
so
that discipline that you learn in the military and that sacrifice is going to come into play while you're
well, think about it. You had 12 years or 13 years of service before you started college, and you start college with kids that are just coming out of high school who have earbuds sticking out of every orifice. don't know anything, wear their baseball caps backwards, have no worldly experience, that can be demoralizing and create anxiety. What we counsel people, our veterans in the program, is we know that first year is probably the toughest because it's a whole new world. You've got to get acclimated to it. But I always say concentrate on self and focus on self, because and that's not selfish. That's survival. The only person that matters in that college is you. And yeah, you have to make friends and you want to make friends and things like that. But talking to kids that have never been anywhere, it's a little difficult to make those relationships. And you got involved in the Student Veterans Association there. You became the president of it. Now they have an award every year in your name. You really worked at it and helped pull that veteran group together to make them feel like they belonged. And I think that's vital in every community college and every university, is that really the veterans do band together and they start to realize, yeah, I got to go to school with these young kids. I got to accept the fact that they don't know anything. They haven't matured mentally to the point where you are. And yeah, we're different. Okay. Big deal. I'm going to focus on self and get through this, and down the road, they'll catch up someday. But that's actually, it's an advantage for the veterans because they do have that mental maturity, and they've been places, they've accomplished tough things. And that's the cornerstone of really where they start to understand, and you probably got there at some point too, that yes, you were competitive. And yes, there was a future, and you just had to get through the steps, and those steps lead to milestones, and those milestones lead to goals. But you can't run around the hurdles. Everybody's got to go over the same hurdles. And each person, each veteran has to get to that point where they realize all of that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we're taught in the military is make things better than you find them. Anywhere you go to the field, you're doing police call, you're cleaning up everything. Like, you're going to make that location or wherever you were camping out look better, pick up the trash. And so that always stuck with me. And I promised myself wherever I was going to go, whatever institution I was going to be a part of, I was going to try to make it better. And so there was a lot of times where I found challenges, and I found things that shouldn't happen where we could avoid those. And so being a voice and trying to pave the way and maybe making it a little bit better for the next veteran after me, the student veteran after me, if I could do that, then I did my job. And that was really my mindset going into college. And what that provided for me was exposure to talking to the president of the university and him knowing my name, and also getting other student veterans to get involved. And so the school I went to was really great about encouraging student veterans to take on leadership position on campus, because they know that we have a certain perspective on life that could also be passed on to the students on campus. And so I was supported. I was very empowered throughout my time there. Derek Abbey was one of the individuals.
Oh yeah, great guy.
That was guiding me and guiding us through the process. And we just needed a little push. We needed some mentorship, and he was able to provide that to us. And we really did a lot of good things at the University of San Diego those couple of years I was there. Yeah,
he's another great example. And Derek Abbey, of one of our other Sentinel graduates, really pulled that veterans group together down there, and it's still going. That's the beautiful thing about it. Somebody starts it and it's still going. I think there's 200,000 every year, 200,000 military members either retire or end their enlistment. And of course, the benefit of the GI Bill is to get into school. And so a lot of them are headed to school now that were at the tail end of the war. And then the ones that have joined recently, typically will serve their 4 years and come out and do the same thing. So it's for the United States of America, it is a renewable resource. These young men and women who go into the military, come out, go to college, and then come back to our communities and do great things. And and continue to volunteer in their communities in different ways, whether it's coaching Little League or in their churches or helping veterans or, Rotary clubs or whatever. The whole idea of service above self is ingrained. It's in their DNA. And I realize it. A lot of people that I know realize it, but generally the general public really doesn't know what the military does, and they don't understand the value of the veterans that come back, join our workforce, our communities. But when you talk to them just for a short period of time, they say, yeah, you know what? You're right. That's true. Because all of them at some point have some experience with a military member in their family or a veteran living next door. They kind of know, but you have to remind them, and in a not an aggressive way, but a subtle way. This is the value that these people bring, not only in maintaining our freedom and protecting our nation, but also it's the longer picture is what they do when they come home. And that's really what our investors, why we exist, is to invest in people like you, to move forward onto your objectives and goals. And it's been a great journey, and you're a part of it. And I know for a fact that you're helping other veterans and young NCOs and privates in the military. And so I just, really, I want to thank you for doing that. I mean, we may have helped a little bit
You helped a lot.
but you had a vision. We kind of just kept you going in a straight direction, and but you carried all the water. I mean, 99.9% of it you did. But we're extremely proud of you, and keep it up. It's vital what you're doing and talking about it. And I know you're very proud, and you should be, and we're proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words and for saying that. And I just want to add that if it wasn't for organizations like yourself, I don't think I would have had the motivation. It was just more motivation, more encouragement to continue going forward. And so having that support system was extremely critical to getting through that 4-year university and then going to my master's program. And so looking back, I know I'm a product of my environment, and I know Sentinels of Freedom is a part of my journey. So thank you for investing in me, and I hope that we could continue moving forward and encouraging other veterans to go to school, become something great, and having support from Sentinels of Freedom is just one extra push to get you where you want to go.
Yeah, it is truly amazing, the people that support. We call them investors, because there's a return on our investment, or their donation, so to speak. It is incredible, the people that support this, from mom and pops to corporations to foundations. They're all a part of it, and we get to be the face of it, I guess, and do the brick and mortar work in it. But if we didn't have that kind of support, we would never be able to do this. So we thank our investors and people like you who make it all happen. So I'm going to clean up here by saying thank you, Jhonny. Again, we're extremely proud of you. We will have another podcast. We're trying to do a couple a week, and then get them all up on YouTube and our Facebook sites where everybody can listen to them. They're incredible stories. So thank you all for listening in today to Veterans Never Stop Serving, a Sentinels of Freedom podcast series. And we hope you'll join us again next week. And we hope you'll share this with your friends, your family, your business associates. There's an old song that says, "Teach your children well," by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And the question I think every parent, every grandparent needs to ask is, did I teach my children well? Do they understand the value of our military, our veterans, our freedom, all of those things? Because without our military, we wouldn't have any of that. We wouldn't have the quality of life we enjoy today or the freedoms. So it's never too late for a parent or a grandparent to sit down and take a few minutes and talk to their children and grandchildren, to give them understanding of how important this is. So thank you again. This is Mike Conklin, Jhonny Chinchilla, signing off of Veterans Never Stop Serving.